They took the banana suits all around the world to get photographs at iconic places. They took it to Russia, and the suits went missing. In their road cases, they went missing. And this is, we didn't even know this until recently. And Graham said, yeah, they'd been stolen by the Russian mafia.
What?
In Moscow. And I said, he said, no, this happened. You didn't know this? This is the story. They were stolen. And then there was, it's true, a ransom note.
What?
Given to Graham Grasby saying, we want 100,000 Australian dollars for you to get the suits back.
My guest today on The Final Encore is Kenneth Radley. Of all the guests I've had on the show, this would be one of the conversations I've looked forward to most, and it's certainly one of the ones my kids have looked forward to the most, something we'll get into later. Over the course of many decades, Kenneth's had a career that spans from music to TV to movies to AFL umpiring to construction to taxi driving and everything in between. And we'll get into all of that and more as we work through how those experiences come together for one final farewell. Kenneth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure.
Before we get into planning your own funeral, Kenneth, I want to start with your attitudes generally towards death. When we were speaking a couple of weeks ago, you mentioned that your own perspective on the topic was heavily influenced by Buddhist teachings, and particularly this idea of sort of daily gratitude. Tell us about that and what that means to you.
It began in the 90s. Someone suggested I read a book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying, written by a man called Sogyal Rinpoche, the Laughing Lama.
Of course.
And like all the great Buddhist speakers, he's a Tibetan Buddhist. He is full of humor and irony and not getting attached to things. So I read that book, and there were reminders in the book that we should reflect on the moment of our death every single day. And I think the Buddhists do it. I'm not Buddhist. I kind of barrack for the Buddhists. If I'm going to barrack for a religion, that might be the one well, it's because of their inclusiveness and the way that Buddhism accepts everybody, rather than saying, oh, our God is actually the one. They don't say that.
We don't take sides on The Final Encore, but...
No, I'm not taking sides, and I'm not a particularly religious person at all. But I loved reading this book particularly. And the idea of reflecting on one's death every day is a healthy thing, I think, because what if I died right now? Would I be okay with that? So I like the idea of having said sorry and having come to peace with various important moments in your life, perhaps. And the idea of being reflective and thankful. And you can't walk around being thankful all day because you're busy. You've got some stuff going on, But if we can find a time to be thankful regularly, I think it's helpful. And I'm a much more useful person when I'm a bit thankful.
What do you find yourself most often thankful for?
For my kids, for the day, for the sky, those things, for beautiful food, to be here for the passing of time.
Is this a perspective you've always had, or is this something that you've developed over time and over experiences?
It developed over time through reading and through music and through exploring storytelling and through friends, observing friends and the troubles they've had and seeing mine reflected through them, and living a reflective life as opposed to going from one thing to the next forever and ever.
Let's talk about planning your own funeral. The first question we ask in the funeral parlour is about music. What would be the one song that would be played at your funeral, and why?
I love music. I play music, and it's an important part of the soundtrack of my life. It's very important. But recently I listened up loud in my car to a recording from 1979 or 1980, recorded at a venue in Melbourne called Bombay Rock, which was a 3-level rockin' venue that had different bands. And up top was the big band venue. And I was singing with a band at the time called Sneak Preview, a hard rockin' kind of four on the floor outfit. It was fantastic stuff. We loved it. We got to support a band called Cold Chisel that I'm sure you're familiar with over 3 nights in Melbourne. 2 nights were beer barns like the Ferntree Gully Hotel and, the Village Green or somewhere like that, some big venue. But the final night was Bombay Rock, and we did a good set, and the audience at the end were yelling for more, which is, for the support band. And I said, thank you so much. That means a lot, but we can't. Our time's up. We've got to go. But Jimmy Barnes was on the side of the stage. Barnesy was there. And he pushed us back. He said, fucking do another one. And so we did. And I thanked Barnesy so many years later. There's a story attached to when I met him at the closing ceremony of the Olympic Games. But that night was recorded. That night at Bombay was recorded. They didn't record us. They recorded the headlining band. That's Chisel. And it is such a good recording. The band was at the top of their game. They were amazing hard rockin' band. But I got hold of this recording, and it's live at Bombay Rock. And one of the first songs, one of the early songs they do is called Merry-Go-Round.
Yeah, great track.
And I've had a belly full of living on this merry-go-round, and it's the best thing. Ian Moss smashes the solo. The great Steve Prestwich holding the bottom end down with Phil Small on bass, and of course Don Walker on the keys, and Barnesy, oh my goodness, at the top of his game.
1980 was peak Barnesy.
It really was. And I heard him warming up out in the band room. My goodness, you should have heard him warming up out there. But Merry-Go-Round from that recording at Bombay Rock, up loud, through a good system, and I want to, it's none of my business what people play at my funeral, really. But if I'm going to pick a song,
that's the one. Did Barnesy remember the moment when you asked him or thanked him for it years later?
It was so great. I went to him and said, Jim, you're not going to remember this, and I told him the story. And he said, you're right, I don't remember. He said, but I'm glad we did, because he said we used to get the runaround when we were support bands, and we looked after support bands, and they did. They gave us all of the PA that night. They gave us a whole lot of the lights, whereas big bands often don't give you anything, So I said, thank you, Jimmy. And he said, you're welcome. Can I have a Bananas autograph, please? so
did he really?
Yes. So I had a kind of a press card and a lovely little card from B1 saying thank you,
That's fantastic.
For everything.
That's fantastic. Sure, the great Australian icons, Barnesy and B1 together for one night only.
Yeah, it was a real treat. And I loved it when he said, you're right, I don't remember.
All right, we've got music sorted. The next question is food, Kenneth. What would be the one dish, the one meal that you'd have served at your funeral?
Somebody can
make it for
use my recipe of ossobuco. It's hollow bones. It's the in Italiano, and a beautiful slow cooked, long cooked ossobuco with plenty of onions, plenty of celery, plenty of carrot, and some grated lemon zest on top of that, some olive oil, really simple, lots of garlic, and we'll get some pasta on the side with some great olive oil and butter on the pasta, and we'll get some lemon zest and a glass of red.
Cold winter's night in Melbourne, ossobuco with a glass of red wine in front of the fire.
Yeah, you bet, So I haven't made it this winter yet, and it's making my mouth water just thinking of it.
So music sorted, food sorted. Now we're moving on to the funeral table, which is this sort of representation in the ceremony of you, your life, the people you loved, the things that you loved. We'll start on the career side first. You've had a very multifaceted career. Take us through that journey, and is there a particular thing or things that you would want to represent that journey on that funeral table?
We could go back to my first passion, which was music. We could just lay a guitar there and people can pick it up and play it if they want. And I have an Australian-made guitar that I love more than life itself. And it's a Maton guitar. It's, it's not worth $1 billion or anything like that, but I just love the sound. I love what it's done for me. And if that guitar was laying there, that'd be a grand thing. If I've also still got a chainsaw from when I used to be the kind of athletic guy out on the end of the the big old timbers with the chainsaws. You know, so we could lay a chainsaw there just with a few wood chips around. Wood chips and diesel, it's the best smell. And get some wood chips going around the chainsaw. Just to, I don't know, we're reflecting the careers, right?
Totally. Keep going.
Yeah, we could have a bottle of wine from when I sold wine at Cellar Masters, a really nice Australian red. We could have, I've still got my identification for when I drove cabs in Sydney for 5 years. Cab 73 was my favourite from Taxis Combined. We could have my little, picture in the cab license. We could have maybe a little pen and a tie or something from real estate when I sold real estate. We could have, I don't know, a shovel from when I was digging bloody ditches. We could have evidence of bananas. What could we have from bananas? What have I got? We used to have mementos and things. No, I still got a shirt. I kept a shirt. I said to somebody, some years ago, should I just chuck this? I go, no, it's an iconic thing. You need to keep it. So I've got a banana shirt.
You didn't get to keep the costume?
No, that's under lock and key at the ABC.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Recently we had a meeting, Nicholas and I, who played B2, beautiful man. We're still great friends, of course. And we went to a meeting of the toy distributors, these men that were selling bananas all over the world back at the time.
Right.
And they told a story we didn't know. And they took the banana suits all around the world to get photographs at iconic places. They just put dancers or somebody in the suits. They took it to Russia. And it was Graham Grasby who took the suits to Russia. And it was just him and the suits. And the suits went missing. In their road cases, they went missing. And we didn't even know this until recently. And Graham said, they'd been stolen by the Russian mafia.
What?
In Moscow. And I said, are you... He said, no, this happened. You didn't know this? This is the story. They were stolen. And then there was, it's true, a ransom note given to Graham Grasby saying, we want 100,000 Australian dollars for you to get the suits back. And Grasby's going, what? I'm a marketing man here, and now I'm dealing with the mafia? So somewhere in Russia, right now, there's 2 banana suits. So Nicholas and I were improvising what B1 and B2 would be saying to each other down in the gulag,
You got to wonder where they're stored.
How long are they going to keep us here, B2? I don't know, B1. Another bowl of borscht,
What a great story. Unknown to the Australian public, by the way.
Unknown. This is a brand new thing.
Breaking news
here. So, what am I talking about? The table?
Yeah, I forgot where we were.
Yeah, it's the table. So those things, I don't know, sprinkle a few little bits of me. If you want to. It's none of my business what people do after I'm dead, because the dead don't care. Well, maybe they know something we don't. I don't know.
It's an eclectic table, Kenneth. I don't think in any of the podcasts I've done there's been a chainsaw. There's certainly not been a banana suit. You must look back. I was saying off camera that my kids are 6 and 4, and it's 20 years after Bananas stopped airing, and now they've graduated to the Netflix version, but they're still Bananas in Pyjamas fans. You must, albeit a faceless icon, you must be proud of the enduring cultural impact that Bananas have had.
I'd forgotten how big and enduring the presence of bananas in Australian culture is, until I started doing CRT work at various schools. And kids, they Google you. They say, "Sir, are you Australian?" I go, "Yeah." "Well, how come you sound different?" And they say, "What's your name?" And they're Googling. That's what they do. They say, "Sir, are you an actor?" And these are 13-year-old kids, right? Year 7 and 8 kids. And they are mad about Bananas in Pyjamas now, today. And we stopped shooting the thing in 2002. So it's so long after, and the enduring effect and the solid presence of bananas in Australian culture, it makes me so proud, and I thank them for keeping bananas alive. And they ask for autographs, so I do my little banana picture and say, "Thanks for being our fan," And they go,
fantastic.
"Oh, I was showing my mum," and it's just huge. It still is, and I'm so proud. We made a real difference to a lot of people's lives, a lot of kids' lives. and it was a beautiful thing to do.
And
really
continue
was.
to, Kenneth.
Yeah, it's.
Bananas lives on.
I think we're here to stay.
Yeah.
Which is wonderful. So long live the fruit.
Long live B1.
Yeah.
Moving on from the memorial table, we'll come back to elements of that in a second. The next topic is sort of the reflection on your life, often told through stories and pictures and videos and shortly speeches. Imagine your life being played out in pictures and stories. Is there a single moment that you would want played back for everybody to relive?
You know, I was lucky enough to work on a series so many years ago called Fields of Fire, my first kind of big-ish television moment. And I was working with those iconic Australian actors, and a little moment of sitting on the motorcycle when there was about 5 of us hanging on the motorcycle with the sidecar. 5 of us, you know, and there's John Jarrett, Harold Hopkins, there's Philip Quast, and these wonderful Australian actors, and I was there, and I was part of it. You could take a still of that or get a little moment of that. A glorious moment in my life. It was a buoyant time to be involved in our business, and I was very lucky. It was just timing. It's all luck, you know, just timing. And you know, and I had a bit of a rough Australian head, so I was castable in certain roles. And yeah, it was just it was a wonderful, wonderful time, and the passion has never left me. I love it.
Before we leave magic moments, I do want to ask the sort of seminal bananas in pajamas moment, at least for me, 2000, Sydney closing Olympics. Kylie Minogue's on a thong, I think. Paul Hogan's there. In Excess are doing their thing. Barnsley's doing their thing. I think
the Oils
were there. And from memory, like the bananas were on like a inflatable slide or something.
Yes.
And I can still remember as a teenager in WA watching this, and the crowd was literally chanting bananas.
100,000 people.
What was that like? 100,000 people screaming bananas.
It was the longest we'd ever been in the suits. We were in there for more than an hour, and you know, it's 15 minutes max in the studio.
Yeah.
But here we were on a warm, beautiful, warm Sydney night for an hour. We were never going to get out of that suit. We made it work, you know. And yes, it was a float. So there were 5 regarded as iconic Australians on floats that I had floats made, doing a lap of the Stadium Australia, and it was Kylie was one. Paul Hogan, we had Greg Norman, the golfer, Elle Macpherson of all people, and the crowd was chanting for bananas.
What was the green room like that night?
Wow, it was amazing. 5 stories up, and they had great food, and we were just mingling around, and people, Vanessa Amorosi asked for a bananas card. Barnsey, I gave Barnsey one. Here I go, Jim. Anyone else? Any of you icons? So the green room was wonderful. After we'd been on the float for so long, our minders, we always had minders near us to care for us because we couldn't see anything. Yeah. And we always had these fabulous ABC people looking after us. We held their hands and they'd take us through weird places. You know, we've been into hospitals, in children's hospitals to see cancer patients, and we've always got people with us because we can't see. And after the little lap of honour we did and such, they took us down one of what's known as the vomitory, which is the little exits from the stadium. And they led us down there and said, "We've got to get you out of these suits. It's been an hour, my goodness." And we went down there and they took the suits off. And even on such a hot Sydney night, there was steam coming like this. But when Nicholas and I were revealed, we were surrounded by about 200 athletes from the world who had autographed things they wanted the. So we had the best athletes wanting our autograph. It seemed so weird. We're going, hang on, we should high jumpers. But the bananas were huge and it was so great. And of course, we were enormously humble throughout.
Of course. Last question before I leave this topic. What's a bigger rush? On stage in front of 100,000 people or rock band? What's been the biggest adrenaline rush of your career?
The live and urgent and sweaty, they're all sweaty it seems, there's a theme there. The live kind of thump from a rock and roll band is enormously, and when the crowd are really digging it, it's an enormous buzz. And when the band is on song, it's great. However, with bananas, even though you can't see out of that suit, you know what's coming. And Nicholas and I gave everything to every moment we were in it. and to take the suit off at the end. We knew we nailed it, and we were so good at unison work and turning, and we just knew what each other was about, and it was so great to be in unison, bringing these lumps of polystyrene to life, and with the wonderful Nicholas Opolsky right next to me.
What an awesome story. I want to move on now to the eulogy, Kenneth. What do you hope people say about you?
I have no control over what anyone might say, but I hope that people think, say, or feel that I loved well.
What do you mean, loved well?
That I loved fully and openly, and that they knew that I loved them in every way that I could. And I'm talking about kids and, and partners that I've loved over the years, and my wonderful friends and people I've come close to, even if we are no longer kind of together, that I loved well when I loved. And that's really important, in my opinion. And so I hope that. And also that maybe there's an acknowledgement of the contribution that I've made in various ways. In my building, I built a deck with my daughter. Hopefully they're walking on it for 30 years. I made some tables that are lovely. Here's a table. He's dead now, but he made the table. Look at it. It's great. And
That's a great funeral table.
And people put their drinks on it or something, or their coffee, So that I contributed reasonably well and that I loved well. Wouldn't that be a grand thing to leave the world?
What about at a professional level, Kenneth? You've been in some of the most iconic Australian films and TV series. You've obviously been in bands, in plays, in everything in between. Is there a particular thing that you want to be remembered for at a professional level?
I've been in something like 30 feature films, 60 television shows, something like 20 plays, and been developing work over nearly 40 years with friends and colleagues. I've loved every moment of it. Truly I have, and I will continue. It's not work, it's life, it's passion, it's storytelling, and it's the stuff of life for me. So from a career point of view, various things that I've done over the years, and people might go, my goodness, you're in that? Yes, I remember you were in that, and that, and that, and that. You contributed so well to so many things over such a long period of time. And every time, Kenneth, you were true and real and professional and inventive. And look at that. I hope people say, well done, mate. Oh, you're dead. You can't hear us say it.
You mentioned when we spoke a couple of weeks ago that your career's over unless the phone rings again. Humour me on this last question. If the phone was to ring again one last time, who do you hope it is, and what's the one dream role you'd love to play?
Jane Campion. George
Jane.
Miller.
George.
Rob Connolly recently. I'm waiting. Warwick Thornton didn't say it from The New Boy. Said, I'm waiting. No, he didn't say it. The dream role. Look, I've played a lot of cops over the years. My standard line is, with a head like mine, I don't play many lovers.
Yeah. You would want to play a lover for the first and the last time?
I have. I kissed a woman in an episode of it was a police show, and I've forgotten the name of it. And I played a criminal who fell in love with the lawyer who fell in love with him.
Right.
And it was the most passionate kiss in the interview room. And thankfully I wasn't too scared of kissing, because usually I punch people or I arrest them or speak sternly or something. But it called for a kiss, and luckily it was Rhonda Findleton, who's a great actor, and I wasn't scared of kissing her because she made me feel relaxed. Some people spend all their life kissing in things in movies, but
after 30 years of training yourself to punch people, that's a hard left.
Yeah, I can take a blow, and I can give a left hook.
Last part of the show, Kenneth, is mantra and philosophy. Is there a particular life mantra, life philosophy that you've lived your life by that you'd like to leave with your kids and the people closest to you?
Slow down. Wherever you are is okay. When I'm like that, suddenly my vision widens. I see the glistening thing out of the corner of my eye. I see the cloud patterns beginning. I watch the leaves falling. I check out that gentleman and his gait as he's walking and wonder how it began. I look at things and observe things and slow down to observe. I've become slower in my life, and I like it because we always have to be somewhere. Slow down. It's okay.
I love that you said that because I've got two young kids, 6, 4, almost 3 young kids, one on the way. And it's a hard time. Physically, it's a hard time, this particular phase, but I know that I'm living in the golden years, and it's very easy to wish away the sort of hard parts and like how long till bedtime because, man, it's been a long day. But sort of accepting that, you know, these are the great moments that one day you're going to look back on and wish you could just do that one more time and I could just pick them up off the floor one more time. And so I'm not necessarily great at it, but I'm certainly now aware that you got to be careful not to wish time to go by because everything's a phase and you've got to enjoy the phase for what it is.
I completely agree, Sam. And, you know, someone said to me a long time ago, you look over your shoulder and your life's over. But it doesn't seem like that. When your little ones are little and there's nappies after nappies and a bedtime routine and they're teething and they're in trouble and the other one's got a cold and you got to do child support and child care and, you know, all of that. There's so much to deal with. You kind of wish time would pass. I can't wait till you can actually wipe your own bottom, kid, you know. All of that. But eventually they can. And then eventually they're gone. So, but I know that you'll be going, this is a golden moment and I'm enjoying it. And we're going to be somewhere else as well, you know.
Yeah, but you really need to actively stop yourself and say, like, click this thing because one day you're going to give anything to go back and wipe your son's ass again you're not going to have that chance.
It is an absolute gift. And sometimes it's going too slow. Time will pass and it's out of our control.
That's perhaps the perfect place to leave it, Kenneth. It's been a pleasure having you on. Thank you for being so open and for sharing that story. And you've had an incredible career and an incredible impact on many people. So thank you for all you've done.
Sam, it means a lot to me and thank you so much.